Hello, beautiful boss babes. Are you ready to chase life with Kelly? Well, I'm your host, Kelly Chase, and I'm so excited you're here. We are going to talk about all things love, dating, relationships, money mindset. We're going to dive deep into self-love, worthiness. I am going to bring on some incredibly empowering guests. We're going to have fun, we're going to laugh, and perhaps we're even going to shed some tears together. I am here to empower you, inspire you, and motivate you to create the life you crave. I am so excited for today's episode. Let's dive in. Hi, babes. Welcome back to the show. Y'all, this is going to be such a fun episode. I have Miss Susie C. Evans, and I love the fact that we put her C, the middle name there. I love it. So, Miss Susie C. Evans from Bachelor on the show with us today. And I met her literally less than 6 months ago, and I just love consuming her content. She's just such a bubbly person. And I am so excited to just have her on to talk about love, dating, relationships, the reality TV world, obviously a little bit of Bachelor stuff, but also her entrepreneur journey and her story. As you guys know, with all my guests, I like to learn more about who they are, not the curated version of them that you may have seen on TV. So I want to give Susie this space and the platform to be able to share more about who she actually is. So if you don't know her, or if you are new to following her, or maybe this is the first time of being introduced to her, definitely at the end, she'll share her Instagram and whatnot, and it'll be in the show notes too, but you'll have your chance to go follow her and just be a part of her journey. And she's just so sweet. So welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here. I'm so excited.
Me too. So you were on season 25 or 26?
26. Mm-hmm.
26 of The Bachelor. So Clay's season.
Clayton. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You can call him Clay. He likes the nicknames.
What up, Clay?
What up, Clay? He goes by Clay around here. Oh, son, look at that.
Oh my God.
That's funny.
Yeah. So I am a Bachelor people fan, not so much a Bachelor show watching fan.
Fair enough. That's honestly same. It's getting hard to watch at this point, but I do enjoy it. I like tune in for certain episodes, and I'm like, it can be entertaining, but I like to follow the people for sure.
Yeah. Were you like an avid Bachelor or Bachelorette fan prior to you going on the show?
Yes, kind of. So I started watching in 2018 or 19. Okay. And it was actually the first season that my friends nominated me to go on. And then I didn't hear anything. And then I got a boyfriend, and then I heard from them, and I was like, wait, I have a boyfriend, so I can't come on the show. Yeah. So I just kind of piqued my interest, and I was like, oh, like I heard from the show. So like, I kind of want to see what this is about. And I had seen a few episodes before, but then it was Colton's season. And so, so I started watching that season, and then I would kind of like dip in and out of other seasons. But I think that was the first time I really got into it.
So when your friends nominated you, did you know that they had nominated you? Or was it
I did.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I did. I was kind of, not that I was against it, but when I lived in Japan right before my friends nominated me, and my friends in Japan, they would have Bachelor and Bachelorette night, like every, Tuesday or whatever, to watch it the day after. And, I went to a couple of them, and I remember we made like a parody video one time. I think it's probably somewhere on YouTube. And like, I just thought it was so ridiculous, the concept of it. And my friend Ashley, I remember her saying like, you would be so amazing on the show. And I was like, I would literally never do that. Like, I remember saying and thinking, I was like, I would be horrible for television. I wouldn't take it serious. Like, I would just goof around. And like, I literally couldn't take it serious in my head based on what I had seen. But then once I came home, and my friends, I didn't even know my friends from back home were like huge fans, and they were like, no, we've been watching since high school. And I was like, what, how have I never known this? But yeah, as soon as they nominated me, they were like, you're getting on. They were convinced before I was. I was like, okay, whatever.
Oh my gosh. So, but you had a boyfriend? Were you dating someone at the time that you got like nominated?
No, not when I got nominated. Yeah. When I first came home, I was super single. I was in Japan for like 2 years prior. And so I dated, but the language barrier was so hard. So when I came back home, I was very single and I was like, I'm like so ready to date and like meet somebody. I was 25 when I came home. And then, my friends nominated me like that spring. And then that next fall is when I got a boyfriend. And then I heard from the show like the next spring. So it had been like a year. They nominated me. I didn't hear anything for like a year.
Wow. Oh my
I know.
God. That's wild.
I
That's
know.
oh my God. Okay. So take us a little bit through that experience of being on The Bachelor. I mean, did you feel, let me ask you this. When do you guys know when, like, who the person is, like who the Bachelor is? Because you get selected to go on the show before you know who the Bachelor is, right?
Yeah, I think it depends on the season. But when it was Clayton season, I didn't know until I was like, my bags were packed. And honestly, I didn't even know if I was on the show. Like they told me I was on the show, but at the same time, they're constantly like, but anything can change. So just beware. Nothing is final until you're literally getting out of the limo. And I was like, I've literally like signed a contract. All my stuff is in storage. Like I was so, yeah, for me. But I mean, my producer that I was talking to was like, no, you're like coming on the show. And I was like, I know, but you guys are it's in my contract that I could be an alternate. And I'm like, well, you guys wouldn't tell me if I was an alternate. So, yeah, it was like, it felt so last minute. I think my first interview with them was July of 2021, I guess. Cause I was kind of seeing somebody that cheated on me prior to that, but like, thank God, because if I hadn't found out that they were cheating, then I probably wouldn't have gone on the show. But yeah, they contacted me in July, or no, earlier than July. And I was like, oh, like it's not the right situation. Like I'm seeing somebody. And then I think it was like July 13th, I found out this guy was cheating on me. And then it was like July 14th, I was like, my circumstances have changed. Are you guys still casting? I would love to come on the show. And yeah, and then like 2 days later, I was on a Zoom call. And then it was like September that I left for the show. And I was like 3 days before that I found out it was Clayton. So
wow.
Yeah.
So when you found out, what was your initial response?
I mean, I was so open-minded to the whole thing. I think in general, like anybody that says like, I remember people saying like, oh, I came here for you, to Clayton. Like people said that to him. And I was like, nobody knew who he was because season that he was on hadn't even aired yet. So literally nobody knew who he was. And I was like, okay, if you're saying that it's based solely on looks, right, which maybe was their thought. And they're like, oh, I wouldn't have come if it were somebody else. I don't know. But I definitely was just like, okay, cool. Like I literally almost felt neutral. Like I thought he was attractive. And I was like, yeah, he's a good looking guy, but I'm such a character person. Like I would say Clayton's definitely like one of the hotter, like better looking guys that I've dated, but not because I don't know. I think it's because I've just put so much value on character for men rather than like their looks. So I've dated guys that, in my opinion, were really good looking, but they maybe like textbook standard, they weren't as good looking as him. So I was just like, okay, we'll see. Like we got to put him through the test, make sure he's a good guy.
Exactly. Well, I think that's a beautiful thing to do. It's funny because alternatively, my story, like going on Love is Blind.
Yes.
So, when I got a call from casting, so backstory, they had my file. Like I was like like everyone else was casted, like recruited from being on social media. I had interviewed for Married at First Sight like 5 years prior to.
Oh my God. Yeah. You are wild. Oh my gosh.
But it's so crazy. Like at that time when I was interviewing for Married at First Sight, it was like they sent me the contract and like, I knew what they were saying the whole time. Like, yeah, like you'll walk down an aisle and like, that's how you person. It wasn't clicking at the time. So when I got the contract though, and it like in print, it said, this is what happens. And if you try to back out, it's $50,000 or whatever. I was like, nope.
Oh my gosh. Wait, if you backed out of the wedding, it was 50,000
or something. Yeah. Or like, or at any time, I think, I don't know.
Oh my gosh.
It was a very large number. Maybe it wasn't 50,000. Maybe it was like 5, but at that time I couldn't even do $5,000.
No, same.
I was like, there is no way in heck that I'm doing this. My parents would literally kill me. Like, I don't know why I've like been going through this whole process, but anyway, so when they called me though, it was so funny because they're like, oh, this is so-and-so from Kinetic Content Cast or Kinetic Casting. Can you are like, we have a new show to pitch to you. Are you still single? And I was like, yeah, I am single. Yeah. But it was funny because just like my friends, the dialogue, like there was the biggest part of me was like, I want to do this just because I'm like in a different place in my life. I am ready to find someone, and the dating here in Atlanta just hasn't been working for me, you know? So it was kind of a lot of that, but then there was also some ego involved, and there was like this proving, because a lot of my friends at the time were like, Kelly, like you keep going for these like model looking guys that are like 10s, but they treat you like a 0. Like they are like schmuck, you know, and like they don't treat you well. So like, what are you doing? You know? So
right.
That was a part of like the reason why I decided to do Love is Blind, because I was like, I'll prove them, like I'm going to meet someone through a wall.
Yeah.
You know, looks involved. So I could do this, but I also didn't think I would make a connection at all. So.
Right. Well, that was kind of my feeling too. I was like, what are the odds? Yeah. Like, that was my thought. I was like, what are the odds that me and this person are really aligned? And I remember they kept asking, could you fall in love in 2 months? And I was like, yeah, probably. Like I've done it before, but it's like totally different on television versus in the real world, when you have control and you can communicate with that person with your cell phone or whatever and call them and make plans, where you're literally on the timeline of production, which is just like so different. I'd be really curious how Love is Blind, like the production differs from The Bachelor. Like, did you have a lot of time together? Or
yeah, we did. Yeah. We did have a lot of time together. So, I mean, great. We were getting married and you guys were getting engaged. So there was a little difference, but
that's true. That's true. That's fair.
But with that being said, no, I mean, like I said, before we started recording, like I read this article that you know, whatever.
Yeah.
They put out an article in the last couple 24 hours. And I was thinking to myself, I was like, wow, you know, because you had noted something about production, about, I think Clayton was saying things to you and you were like, well, he actually doesn't know me. Like that was like a bug being put in his ear kind of thing. Like production was like feeding him those lines in a sense. And, you know, and the fact that you guys really didn't get that much time with Clayton. So for us, because we were, you know, only in the pods were we not getting totally undivided attention, meaning because we only had X amount of time with that person before I had another speed date, you know, kind of thing, another date with another person. But once we connected and got engaged and everything, like then we were with each other all the time. So we got right. Like very evolved conversation on and off camera.
That's awesome. Yeah. So that seems a little bit more authentic. I mean, it's still probably somewhat, I guess, produced, but that definitely sounds like you had more time. It seemed, I remember watching y'all's season because it aired during COVID, right? During 2020. Yeah, I remember I was on the reality TV kick at that time.
Everybody was.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember. It was interesting. But yeah, I think leaving the show, I was like, oh my gosh, I think everybody knows. Like, I remember seeing things happen and people being excited about things Clayton did for them. And I was like, okay, like that was obviously production. And I remember thinking that, and I was like, how are people falling for this? And not that the sentiment isn't there behind when the lead does something for contestants, but I'm like, we don't really have access to anything. So like any special things that were done, I'm like, that had to be arranged by somebody besides the Bachelor. The Bachelor doesn't have his credit card, a phone, like he can't go buy something. But like, I remember one thing in particular was like a conversation that we had, and it was like a suggested conversation by somebody else. And I remember I don't know, like when I came back and it unraveled like later in our relationship where I was like, wait, a lot of this stuff like wasn't even organic. And at the moment I thought, oh, that was like emotionally intelligent, or, oh, I thought that was really thoughtful, but then it's somebody else. So it's really a disservice, in my opinion, the producing of the show. When they produce it so much, I'm like, it's such a disservice to fostering a real relationship.
Yeah. Yeah. And I wonder if, you know, I mean, I want to say the success rate of the relationships that have come from Bachelor and Bachelorette in more recent years, I feel like they're not as successful as they were, you know, like obviously Tristan is still married to her. I mean, she was the first Bachelor, you know, they were the first Bachelor, you know, but it's like, I wonder maybe because it is more produced or is it more produced than it was 20 years ago, you know? But
Right.
I wonder if that's true because you're falling in love with a person who is not
curated.
Yeah, is curated and not showing up as them totally as themselves, you know, obviously somewhat. But yeah, that's curated. And then you're going to live a life with them now. And you're seeing that they're not really that person or
right.
Yeah, that's so wild.
I know. I am really curious if it was as produced, you know, back in the day, like 20 years ago or whenever it first started. I don't know. I really don't know. Obviously I wasn't there, but it is interesting. And I think that I see a lot of dating shows that seem more hands-off from production, but I don't really know. You don't know. Cause like a lot of people watch The Bachelor and think that all that is just organic, but like so much of it isn't. So I don't know, maybe I'm just like another viewer that's falling for the illusion of other dating shows.
Yeah. Well,
but I don't know.
I think though, when you're watching, I mean, I'm guilty of this too. When I was watching my season too, because every couple it's not like we're all in a house together and seeing each other all the time. Like we're being filmed separately from every couple. So for the most part anyway, so it's like, I was watching like Giannina and Damien's love story and Lauren and Cameron's and Jessica and Mark. Like I was watching their love story unfold. And there were parts of me that was like, oh my God, I can't believe she said that. Or I can't believe he did that, you know? And I'm like, wait a second, production probably made them do that or made them say, or incentivize something and, you know, or produced it in a way to make it just more dramatic for the camera, you know, for the TV kind of thing. So, but, you know, so I was like, wow, I'm falling victim to it. And even in the more recent seasons of Love is Blind 2, I would find myself being like, oh my God, like he's such an asshole or something. And I'm like, wait a second, they probably made him look like an asshole. Like, you know,
it's so true.
It's just crazy. But yeah, I mean, for us, like Love is Blind was not, what we saw was produced, of course, like they pulled things and cut and cropped and did whatever they needed to create a storyline, of course. But when we were filming, I don't feel like there was too much like suggestion. Like I felt like we definitely weren't scripted by any means, but if there was a conversation that they wanted us to have, that was usually it. For Kenny and I remember them trying to like make us get intertwined with like the dirt and the tea and the gossip and all that. And I think I would have been more open to not talking bad about someone, but just giving more of my opinion, I guess. And and I remember Kenny one time being like, I know what you guys are trying to like make us do. And we're not those people. Like, we're not going to sit here and talk shit about people. And so the production was just like moving. Okay. So they didn't, but on the flip side of that, I'm sure that they did that to other couples and other people, and they were open to telling their truth and saying what they wanted kind of thing to create and whatnot. But otherwise, the only thing that was like suggested was, hey, we want you guys to talk about your finances.
Right.
And then you'd go as deep or as shallow as you wanted to with those conversations. But otherwise, yeah, me and Kenny were boring.
But you guys were so cute. I loved you guys. I was actually shocked at how it ended. I was like, oh my gosh, I didn't expect that. But at the end of the day, it's like, people can watch from the outside and think what they want to think, but nobody really knows what's going on the inside in your heart or just how it might feel. Like you can't necessarily see feelings, you know?
Absolutely. Yeah. It was a lot. This question came to me earlier. I don't know if you're able to answer this, but are you guys allowed to say no? Like if Clayton and like proposed, are you allowed to say no?
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, I did, I think kind of. He didn't like propose, I guess, but I was like adamant when I stayed. So like once you get towards the end, I'm pretty sure, and I want to say in the absolutes, but I'm pretty sure everyone has to just stay to the end of production for the most part. And so I was still in Iceland at the very end. And so when I was asked to come back on screen after I had like technically left, I was adamant that I would not get engaged. I was like, no way in hell, not a chance. And I was like, honestly, if he shows up with a ring, I'm going to be pissed because if if he is thinking that there's like a chance that we're going to get engaged, then I'm like, you guys are so obviously, excuse my language, but like fucking with him, because he should know that I have absolutely no intention of getting engaged. Like, no. And so I was like adamant to everybody speaking with me. I was like, there's no chance that I will get engaged. But he had a ring at the very end. And he was like, he said to me that they had said, kind of like, feel it out, you know, how the conversation goes. Like, if it feels right, you can get down on one knee. And when he pulled out the ring, he was like, this is how serious I am. I was like, he said that he could tell in my face immediately. And he was like, I put it right back in my pocket, because he's like, I could tell you were like not having it. Yeah. So I think ultimately, yeah, you can say no, but I think there's a lot of pressure that happens from all different sides, even pressure that isn't applied by production, but just in your head, you're like, oh my gosh, like, are the viewers going to hate me? And I think so many people, a lot of people complain about it being like inorganic now. And I remember being so afraid of like the wrath of Bachelor Nation. I remember that. And that did make things inorganic, in my opinion. That's like a fault of my own, to be worried about what the public is going to think. But then again, it's like, you see people that come on reality TV and then have a hard time getting jobs afterwards. Like, there were some things that I was just like unwilling to even touch. Like, there were certain conversations that I was like, I'm not even going to like engage in this, because if they take a soundbite from this, or if it gets twisted, like, I never want to do anything that's going to harm my ability to have my videography business or just align with my reputation. So there were things that I was protective of. And I think, unfortunately, that comes down to kind of not, I don't want to say the fan base, but I think it's almost like our culture right now, like cancel culture and stuff. It's like, it is so scary. And when you put yourself out there on a dating show and you're unfiltered, it's like, it's frightening, not just because of what you say could be taken out of context, but because editing, like they can edit you to look a lot of different ways. And I think I was fortunate that I didn't have like a quote unquote terrible edit or a bad edit, but I remember being scared at times, and I was like, there's all this pressure of everything. And a lot of times it's no one saying anything. You just know, you're like, oh gosh, like I knew people were going to hate me with the fantasy suite stuff. I was like, oh, people are going to hate me for this, but it is what it is, you know?
Yeah. How did you deal with that? And how do you continue to deal with it? Because I mean, just negative comments and things, because not everyone's gonna be our cup of tea, of course, you know? So if you are, there's gonna be that one person that sends you a nasty DM or sends you, or like leaves a comment for you on something, you know, like, how do you deal with that? And how's it gotten better over time now that there has been some time since the airing of the show?
Yeah, at first it was pretty brutal. I remember the influx of people that were messaging me saying, I mean, horrible things at first. I mean, I was so shocked. I was like, okay, I didn't realize how bad it could be. And it definitely was, I don't want to say the word like depressing, but I remember looking back at myself during that time, I was in a depression for sure. And even at the beginning of my relationship, like I had a lot of joy and I was very happy at different times. But I also, when I think back to that time, I think it was it was really hard. And I didn't even necessarily realize how much it was affecting me. But I also think, I think coming from the background I have, like I went to Miss USA when I was 26. And people feel very comfortable to make comments about your body or your face or your look. And I think that kind of prepared me for what I was about to go through on The Bachelor. And at the same time, I don't know, I think I look back and I'm like, I think that I was strong and I was able to get through it. But I think it did, like, I hate to use the phrase, it's kind of cheesy, but like dull my sparkle a little bit, you know, that like spark of joy and that life within you where you're just confident and you're secure. And like before I went on the show, I was so confident in myself and I was so happy with my life. And then coming off the show, I really struggled to like find happiness and joy and my flow in life again. There were so many things that I felt I was just like, oh, I feel very empty. And I don't think it was because I was like putting emphasis on social media, because my social media was actually doing really, really well. I think even though there was a ton of hate right at the beginning, then all that fizzles out. And then you just have people that genuinely like to follow you and they want to support you and send you mostly kind messages. So I think it's just, now sometimes I troll people back because I think it's funny, but for the most part, I've kind of just realized, I'm like, this is, if they're taking the time to comment mean stuff, it's like, I honestly do kind of feel bad for these people at times. I'm like, I don't know what they have going on in their life that they feel this much hate to come troll me. So like, if I feel bad for them, I won't troll them. But if it's just like some dick, I love to just really, and honestly, not even anything good. Like I don't give good comebacks. I'll just say like the craziest stuff. Like one guy was commenting saying how all of us reality stars get our rent paid by men now and all this stuff. And I was like, wait, people are getting their rent paid? I was like, okay, Venmo me right now. And he was like, no, I didn't say I was going to do it. And I'm like, okay, so you're broke. Like, and it's just like stuff like that where I'm like, I get my little bits of joy in, but I'm like, okay, whatever. Like he's trolling me. He thinks like, I don't work or do anything now. And I just get everything for free. But I'm like, no, like my rent is so expensive now. It's insane.
Yeah. I think misconceptions that people have like of us coming from reality TV. I was just doing a podcast episode interview before, and that was something I said. I was like, yeah, I mean, maybe I'm close to 400,000 followers. I said, but I'm not a billionaire. Like
I'm not rich.
Like I ain't rich, guys.
Yeah.
I work a full-time job. I run a business. I have a pocket. Like I'm doing the most over here. And,
yes.
And I will speak to what you said about the doling of the sparkle. That was kind of like my journey as well. I felt like I was very confident. I had like such like an awesome platform before where I was just like, I went back. It was so funny. Yesterday, actually, I used to repurpose. So anything that I would post on Instagram, I would post inside of a Facebook group too. And so I went scrolling through my Facebook, like pictures and posts last night. And I got down to like 2017 or 18. And 2018 was when we filmed the show. And I was like, okay, I want to see how I was writing back then. And it was so like, so me, so raw. So, I mean, which I am that way now too, but it's like, I know that I lost a part of that. I lost some of that over the last couple of years since the show aired. And I'm like, I used to just be like, I didn't care. Like I knew that even if 5 people saw it, like I knew I was creating impact in their life. And I definitely got caught up in like the metrics and the engagement and the likes and all of that, like after the show aired. And it did such a doozy on my mindset. And like, it's like I would post something and I was like so excited about posting it. And then it would like not maybe get the engagement I wanted it to or something. And I would like, womp, womp. And I would feel like, kind of like, did they not like it? Did they not like me anymore?
Like,
crazy though. But I know it's just the algorithm, like, and it's so interesting. Like, to the algorithm, I think for us, like, it maybe, obviously I would love to have a conversation with someone from Instagram one day, but how the algorithm, like, works in a sense, like, I'll post something and it lands and it gets crazy engagement. And then I post something that I think is also really good. And again, it like gets 200 likes or something. I'm like, what? Like that doesn't correlate. And I'm so like baffled, but I'm like, okay, what should I be posting in order for it to always have like great engagement? Like, do I need to like, almost like not be myself and curate myself to be what Instagram wants? Yeah, I
know. So Clayton and I have had this conversation about like just being how we want to be intentional with our media. Like when I was doing pageantry, like for Miss USA, you have to have a platform, and mine was media that matters. So like I was always trying to make intentional social media and sharing stories of people who've overcome adversity. Like that was always my thing. And Clayton, he's found a big passion for mental health post show. And even though we are not together anymore, we still catch up every once in a while. And it's interesting because he's like, it's just crazy how like you can post a thirst trap and you'll get tons of engagement. And he's like, if you post something that's really, truly meaningful, he's like, it just like plummets your engagement. And it's crazy because you have this cycle of like, doing social media has bought me back so much time to do my passions and do wonderful things and help people and volunteer. And and just like, it's literally bought back time that I can use to fulfill my life in a better way. And I think, and I'm so grateful for that. But then when you use your platform for something that's like really good, but maybe not as like juicy, you know, it's not like about your relationship, or it's not about your body or your looks or appearance. It's something meaningful. And yeah, then you're like, okay, well, this is a true reflection of my passion and where I like how I want the world to experience life, or like a story, or like whatever it might be. And it flops. And you're like, wait, this is actually so much more special than me in a bikini. That,
Right.
you know what I mean?
Absolutely. I know. I'm
Yeah.
like, do I just need to post me in a bikini and then like the like really deep, passionate like captions? Like, maybe that's what I need to do.
There we go. We just got to be like, yeah, changing the world in our bikinis.
I'm like, oh my gosh, it's so annoying. I'm like, oh my God, but this was, but you know what? Again, those people that did see it and they did read the caption,
Yes,
saw the reel, like it was meant to land in their eyes or on, you know, for their ears that day or whatever. So, you know, I'm just
absolutely.
like, and I think too, like, granted, after the show and stuff, you know, I've worked like both like in corporate and just as my like doing my business stuff over the last few years. And it's been funny because I'm like, okay, like because I have so much stuff to do, I am not as bothered by it anymore. I'm like, I just need I need to like get in there, post this stuff, and then like, get off my social media because I have to go do this and I have to go do that. So that's been really helpful for me to like not be so consumed and concerned with the social
That's
media.
awesome.
It doesn't bother me. I'm just like,
yeah. You're like, I don't have time to be bothered. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's so true. I love that. It's actually good advice.
Like keeps the boundaries up. I mean, granted, I want to try and be more present out here, you know, and like not on my phone anyway. So it's, you know, it was funny right before our show aired, I removed like all notifications on my, like every social media app, all notifications. And I mean, I'm so glad that I did, because I would have probably had an anxiety attack, but but I haven't taken it off since. Like the only notifications I get are, you know, someone calls me and like text messages or whatever, but like all social media, like you can't see that there's like a little notification there. Like it doesn't come through. It doesn't show up on the app. I have to click on the apps to see what notifications I have. And I have I have my phone on do not disturb, like 23 or like 24 hours probably.
That's amazing. Yeah. She's an unbothered queen and we love it.
Yeah. I'm on my phone a lot anyways. I mean, it's usually always in my hand, but because I'm like working from it, doing God knows what, but you know, it's just, it does create a lot more like mental peace for sure.
Yes, absolutely. I love that. I need to be a do not disturb girl. I've never really like, I do at night sometimes, but I need to just do it during the day. I feel like I would get way more work done.
Yeah. You're not constantly, you know, even if your phone vibrates, you know, it's still like that distraction. It takes you away from something. So it's been very helpful. But you know, I don't think my mom likes it too much. I mean, you can put, like, it's so funny though, like you can have a favorites list and then those people you can still receive the phone calls from or the text or whatever from. But for whatever reason, I don't know, my mom's like never comes through and she's like, I'm trying to call you. She's like,
oh, that's so funny. Sorry, Mom. Oh, that's cute.
Okay, so you lived in Japan. What were you doing over there?
I worked for Disney before going on the show.
Yes. Wait, you were a Disney princess. Is that what I
was? Yeah, I did like character work. So I was like, well, I'm not even supposed to say that I was. So I was friends with Belle, Ariel, Snow White, Rapunzel, and I did like their parades and greetings and some of their stage shows.
In Japan.
In Japan, that was the gem. Like I was not a Disney person before, and I didn't even know the difference between Sleeping Beauty or Snow White. So I literally had no clue what I was getting myself into. And then, it was incredible. It was the best thing I ever could have done. I was 22 when I moved there and 25 when I left. And it literally changed me. It made me such a better person because I was so carefree in my young adult life. I was like kind of reckless a little bit. And Japan is so strict that when I was there, it like forced me into just like creating pillars and structure in my life. Yeah, it was really good for me. And like, if you were 30 seconds late for the bus that was going to pick you up, or you'd have to walk 2 miles, you're going to miss the bus because the bus doesn't wait because it's always on time. And like, if you showed up late to work, even by 30 seconds, you would have to pay back that 30 seconds of whatever that time difference is. Like, people just aren't late in Japan. Yeah. It's so crazy. And, yeah, it was the best thing I could have done. And then I was like, okay, I do love Disney. After working there for 2 years, I saw so much Disney magic where I was like, oh, wait, I get it now. Like, there's so much, like, people just like little kids still believe in the magic, and they meet the characters and they think you're Snow White and they think you're Rapunzel, and you can just like, I don't know. It's magic. I don't know how to describe it. It's so cute.
That's really cool though. That's so neat.
Yeah.
Did you grow up watching Disney movies, but just not like them? Or did you never really like watch them?
So I definitely like watched movies. I know I liked Beauty and the Beast, and I never really like watched Snow White. I didn't know a lot of the characters. Like, I don't know, but not that I wasn't a Disney person, but I wasn't. I don't know. I just never like grasped onto it. I liked Disney Channel when I was like a preteen, but I also was like a Nickelodeon kid. Like, I loved Rocket Power and what is it? Roscoe's Modern Life. I don't know. Like, I loved like Nickelodeon, and then I watched some Disney, but I just like never got into like the classic Disney stuff until I worked there. And then I was like, oh, I have to like learn all this stuff about Disney characters.
Oh, fun. That's such a cool job though. And to be abroad in a like just to learn the culture of another place. I think that's so it really is like, I mean, I love traveling myself. I haven't been international in a few years, but it changes you. Like, it really makes such a great way. So what, I have a few more questions for you. Let me go back to like, just like relationship stuff. Like, how has dating been for you since being on The Bachelor? Like, what does that look like?
Oh, I like haven't even dated. It's so weird. So Clayton and I broke up in like late August, I think, of last year. And then now we're in March, and I had like a little fling for a bit, and he was great. But I haven't been on a single date, and I did get on the apps, but like, I just can't be bothered. I'm like, so I like will swipe for a minute, and then I'm like, oh, like, I know that there will come a time when I'm like, I really need to invest in my dating life and like give more time to that. But right now I work so much. I feel like I work from the time I get up until the time I go to bed. And then I still am like, oh, there's not enough time in the day to get everything done. So I just like literally haven't dated, but I know I want to. I know I would love to just like have that person magically appear, and then they're like with me for the rest of my life.
I mean, we all wish that it would work out.
I know. Like, I just don't want to do the dirty work of like dating all these guys to find the one. I don't know. I'm like, maybe I'm just being lazy when it comes to dating.
No, it's not, because I mean, granted. So like, obviously there's a saying of like, you know, where you focus, or where your focus goes, your energy flows. Yeah. Where your focus goes, your energy flows, right? So yes, like you're working on growing your business. So your energy is all consuming in that, you know? And so granted, if we like redirect and we start focusing on dating and stuff, but if we're like trying to ever make stuff happen in any of these areas, it gets pushed further away. So it's kind of like, yeah, the guy will just magically show up. Like,
yeah. You know? I do feel like it's true. I'm like, I have to believe that I'm going to attract that, you know?
Yeah, I think you will too. I mean, it's funny because I am the same way. I'm working like nonstop. And you know, I will entertain. I'm like the seasonal app person. Like, I'll get on when I'm like, okay, I feel like I'm in like a really good like balance with everything else going on with life. So let's go ahead and hop on the apps again. And then all of a sudden I'll get like super busy and stuff. And I'm like, oh wait, no, I can't. I'm going out of town, or I'm doing this or whatever. And it's like so hard to plan a date with a guy. And it's funny because like this one guy I did match with recently, he's like, like literally our conversation was about burnout and like talking about everywhere. And he had to reschedule because he had to go fly somewhere the other day. So we haven't gone on a date yet, but then like it's Thursday, I haven't heard from him. So I'm like, okay, I don't know. Maybe a last minute kind of person, like, hey, if I'm around, like, do you want to grab coffee?
Right.
You know, but I'm kind of like, I want like, do I want someone that's as busy as me too? Or because then we'll get it, like we understand each other.
I know.
Or do I want someone that isn't, so that they can show up for me when I want them to?
I know. It's literally the hardest thing, because you're like, are we just going to be two workaholics that like don't have time for each other, but we understand it? Or are we going, or do you find somebody, like, I think about somebody with a more traditional, what is it, like, career than me. And I did, pharmaceutical marketing after Japan. And then before starting my business. So I did a couple of years of that. But even that, I was on the travel team. So I was traveling a lot, but I definitely had more time, and I was in a serious relationship for a year during that time. And it definitely accommodates like dating and being in a relationship better than whatever the hell I'm doing now, whatever this is. Yeah. It's a lot harder to feel like I have the opportunity to have like a normal dating life, but I don't know. Cause like, I don't know. Am I just going to be the annoying workaholic girlfriend?
No,
I don't know.
Yeah, maybe.
maybe that's my brand. Maybe that's the kind of girlfriend I am.
Yeah. I mean, granted, like, I mean, I've been in this place before of like, I'm just doing so much and I'm like working so much. Granted, I'm passionate about everything that I'm doing, but it's a lot of things. And I have to really hone in on, okay, Kelly, but like, what do you really want? Like, what is it like? Okay, if you want a boyfriend and all of that, okay, what does that scenario look like? But also, what do you want your business to look like? Are you going to be doing 10 different things, or can you focus on like one or two and just like grow in that regard? So it's kind of where I'm at right now, and strategizing exactly like how I want everything to look, so that I may have to let things go that aren't going to serve me long term. Maybe they're doing it right now, but just how I can make some pivots right now to cultivate the space for things and like how I just want my future to look, versus like, cause right now, like nobody would want to date me right now. I'm like, I'm working all the time. Like, I mean, literally this guy the other day too, he was like, oh, when can you like, let's get like coffee or whatever on Saturday. And he's like, when are you free? And I'm like, well, I'm free between 11:30 and 2:30. Like, and he's like, wow, that's a window there. And I go, okay, 4 hours for one, but 3 hours. But I was like, in my head, I'm like, well, that's all I have. That's literally the only time I have this weekend unless we have to push it to the next weekend. And
I know
it didn't wind up working out. He had something pop up with work too, but I was just like, and that kind of keeps happening. It's like these things. So I just want someone to magically appear too. I am on board.
I'm like, I just want them to show up and be exactly, not exactly who I want them to be, but exactly who I'm supposed to be with. Like, I just need them to show up and be there, and, not have to put in the dirty work and the time that it takes to learn.
Absolutely. So tell us a little bit about your business, your wedding photographer, videographer, correct?
Yeah.
So when did you start that? And because obviously you said you were a pharmaceutical rep too. So kind of what's your journey with that? And just like now you're solely doing that. And I would imagine doing influencer stuff too a little bit.
Yeah, definitely. So I first started doing videography. I studied videography in college. I was a film major and did a ton of like short films. And I always thought it'd be cool to be a documentary filmmaker. Never even thought of weddings back then. I feel like it wasn't as much of a thing as it is now. And, well, at least for videos. And so then went into Disney. I came back. I wanted to do Miss Virginia. And I literally came back from Japan and I was like, okay, like I'm going to age out. So I'm going to try this now. And if I don't get it, then I'll go to New York and try to do film. Well, I got second place my first year. And I was like, damn. I was like, I really just wanted to do this one time and be done. But I was like, I was so close. I'm going to go one more try. But I had to have residency in Virginia. So I got a job as in pharmaceutical marketing, and I was on the travel team. So I was like, okay, I'm still kind of traveling and having a bit of adventure. And then in 2020, I won Miss Virginia in like January, and I used like a savings bond that I had to get my LLC, which was like more like symbolic. So it was like from my grandma, and I was like, oh, I want to use this money that she gave me when I was a kid to start my business. So I got my LLC. Things started taking off. Like videography. I got a job on a film, like a independent film, in Virginia. And then I was Miss Virginia. And so I was just like, this is the year my life is going to change. Like, I'm going to go full speed ahead. I was so ready. I quit my job in like February. And then like 2 weeks later, COVID shut everything down. And I was like, shit. I was like, damn, like this sucks. Like everyone just went remote, and now my old company's on a hiring freeze until they figure out what's going on with COVID. And I actually ended up moving with my parents, because I think everybody was kind of freaked out, but I was also like, I don't have like steady income. Weddings are completely at a halt. Like nobody was having weddings. And so it was just like pretty much a big, massive failure. And it was kind of embarrassing, I would say, at the time, but now I'm like, I was like, oh my gosh, my first failure. Now I see it that way. I'm like, that's so exciting, because every CEO, every millionaire, every billionaire, they all say like, to get to where they are, it's like this massive road of just tons of failures, which I know we shouldn't like aim to fail, but once you start failing and you're like, oh, I picked myself back up and I got through it, it teaches you that that's just a part of the process. It's like, it's the dirty work of being an entrepreneur, to be honest. And so that was kind of my 2020 experience. And then 2021, so I actually ended up going back to that company for a bit, and they knew that I wouldn't stay forever, but they brought me back on temporarily while I just like financially got myself better. And then in 2021, I moved back out of my parents' house and back to Virginia Beach. I stayed with the company for a little bit longer, and then I gave them my notice. I got a waitressing job, and then I worked at a hotel, and I got back to doing videography, and I was able to do the weddings that I had previously booked that got moved to 2021. And then the summer was a pretty good month for weddings because everybody was having them, but I was charging so little because I was so new still that I was like, just kind of like getting my bearings. And so I don't think I was like a great businesswoman my first couple of years. And I still feel like I'm learning so much, even with taxes and stuff. I'm like, oh, it can be so overwhelming. But yeah, 2021 was like my first official year back doing weddings. And then 2022 was really great. Obviously the show helped me book some weddings for 2023, which is obviously this year. So it's been like, yeah, it's been a learning process, a learning curve, but I love it. I love that I get to do video for my job. And I also love being with people on their wedding day. It's like such a fun day for me.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I love that for you too. Yeah. I loved everything that you just said, because you fail forward. I mean, that's it. We have to be, that's probably like through like coaching and stuff. Like because I work with some entrepreneurs, I work with the gamut of, women from all different backgrounds and stuff. And for the entrepreneurs, they're like, there's that fear of failure. But when I like expand their mind a little bit, I'm like, you actually have a fear of success. It's not your fear of failure. It's actually the fear of success of like, because when you start to, a lot of people have different money beliefs and whatnot. And so when they start to actually become more successful, they think they're going to leave people behind. And that's a really big fear, to like lose relationships, whether it's friendships, you're not, and not necessarily like, but like when they seem to be becoming more successful, where they're stepping into their power more, that's very intimidating to some people. And and so it can be like, oh, wow, like I'm actually it's not actually the failure that I'm afraid of. It is the success that I'm fearing. And wow. I only was suggesting that to some of these women that I was coaching is because that was something that I went through too. Like, I mean, I've failed so many times with my business. I've had my coaching business since 2013. And I'm just like, oh my God, like it's been a roller coaster. And it's, I want to say in like 2019, I like went back into the corporate space, and I remember doing like an Instagram story, and I was like, y'all, I feel like a failure because I have to like go get a 9-to-5 job again. I was like, but I have to like, I've been learning a lot about mindset, and I have to shift my mindset to thinking like, no, this is just an investment in my like business. Like I have to do this to like keep some ground and finances coming in, some money coming in when my business doesn't feel like money's coming in right now. So,
yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
I mean, it was like kind of brutal going back to the company I quit. And obviously, like, I think whenever you quit a company, you should always try to leave on good terms if you can, which I did. And they always were so supportive and so loving towards me. So when I did go back, I did feel like that. Oh God, it friggin' sucked. I was like, dude, like I quit here less than 6 months ago and I'm coming crawling back like, oh my God, I need my job back. But it's like, that's life. And as long as you leave on the best of terms that you can, then usually you'll always have the opportunity to like come back if you need to. And there's nothing wrong with that. And if people judge you, honestly, like I'm judging them for not taking a chance on themselves. Like if you're going to judge me for leaving and trying and coming back, then like you're just too scared to try something different in your life.
Yeah. Yeah. That's so true.
Yeah.
Absolutely. No, I love that so much. That's great.
Thanks. Same with you. It's like, it's so refreshing to hear because I think a lot of people have like all these dreams and they're just afraid to put them in action. And I was too, like when I got that corporate job, my mom, I remember like, I was totally fine. I seemed totally fine in my mind, even though I knew that I was like kind of disappointed. And when I told my mom, I was like, oh, I'm really excited. I got this job. And she was like, are you okay? And I was like, yeah, I just got a job. And she's like, I know, but I know that probably feels like a bit of a loss because it's so like mundane and like, it's not the life that you've dreamt of for yourself. And I was like, damn, my mom knows me a little too well. And I was like, okay, like she was like really calling me out for what I truly wanted. And at the time, it was an investment and it was how I like, kept food on the table, paid my bills, but it was like a bummer, but sometimes you just got to do what you got to do until you can get to where you want to be.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, I was telling my listeners the other day, like, I mean, I started another corporate job in December, at the end of December, because I was just, again, my business was just fluctuating. And I know that it was, as I was telling you, just kind of that like mental chaos around social media and everything. It just was bringing me down and just not allowing me to fully be myself and step into my own power and what I was afraid of, of being my own self. It was so weird after, like I said, like after so many years of being myself and everything, it just like how the social media just like screwed up my head basically. But, business was like fluctuating because I was fluctuating all the time, just internally. But yeah, I mean, but stepping into this new role, like I'm loving it. And I kind of was praying for it in a sense. I mean, granted, I wanted some type of opportunity to come through my business more or less, but I just kept saying, like, please God, like send me an opportunity that's like, has like, time and location freedom and gives me like just enough or more than enough money that's going to be it. So I'm not like stressed every month, that kind of thing. And that's exactly what it is. It's outside sales. I create my own schedule. I'm learning a completely new industry. So it's challenging me in different ways. And I'm meeting new people every single day. And that was like a part of it too. I was like, I want to be out and about, like meeting new people. Yeah. So it was kind of like a manifestation. It came to real life,
I love it.
Yeah. And then with my business stuff, like I love my podcast. I mean, it's so great. And I'm just stepping more into the podcast space. I mean, I've had this show for a year and a half or almost 2 years now, but it's not where I want it to be. So it's like, okay, the lack of that focused energy, like where I wasn't really showing up for it, I need to like do that now, like this year. So
yeah, that's awesome.
Like efforting everybody and just, just getting my media kits like all together and everything too. I'm like, I've got to get I like this. I love this. I want to do like a talk show or something one day. So I just have to keep planning my steps while having the full-time job to help me.
Absolutely. I love that. I heard this story one time about I'm like, I wish I knew the names of these people, but basically there's this guy that was doing, I think it was like YouTube videos, or maybe it was Instagram reels. I don't know, but it was a little while ago, like couple of years ago. So maybe not reels, but he was doing videos and he was talking about a topic that was really important to him. He was super passionate about, and he was getting such low views, like crazy low views on these videos. And people were like, why are you still doing this? Like, don't you think you should pivot? Like, it's obviously not resonating. But he had made connections with people just through the community that he had built. And probably butchering the story, but basically one of these guys that he made connections with had a connection with Oprah. And Oprah was like, I'm looking for somebody that can be a talk show host for something on the O network around this topic. And this one guy that he knew was like, check out my friend's videos. So Oprah is scrolling through these videos with like 20 and 30 views. And she's like, this guy's great. She hires him to be a host on one of her shows on her network. And yeah, he spoke about this publicly and he was like, it's such a testament. Like, it doesn't necessarily matter how many people are watching, but it's like, who is watching, who is resonating. And if you're just making those connections and like, I don't know, rubbing elbows with the right people and truly connecting and like also being aligned in your brand. So like whatever it was that Oprah was looking for, it just literally was what this guy was talking about. So it's like stories like that just give me so much hope as a person, where it's like, it doesn't matter the views. Like, it matters that you're doing what you're passionate about and that you're aligned with. And then, like we said, like the right thing will fall into place when it's meant to.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I love that story. That's so cool. I mean, yeah, that's really, really neat.
I'll find out the name so I can send you. Maybe you can put it in the show notes, because it's like such a cool story. It's such an inspirational story.
That really is. I know. Like, you know, there's probably a little bit of like, I mean, this is my own personal stuff, but you know, like a little bit of just like embarrassment and like that I let social media and like the metrics and everything get to me as bad as it did. Like, I'm a mindset coach. Like, I help people like reprogram their stuff. And like, I was just caught in it. And it's just like, dang it, you know, like I could have, you know, had I not gotten so caught up in it, I think, I mean, granted, everything would have been different for me in different ways, but you know, it's still like, there's still some type of like, I don't know, it's like PTSD or something. Like, there's sometimes I'll go to create something and I'm like, I shy away. I'm like,
I know.
But like, we're having like these types of conversations, or if I'm in person, this is so weird. But like, if I'm in person, like I do some public speaking events and I'm like, I'm fine. It's literally like recording myself. All of a sudden I have this like weird
anxiety or like, I don't know, this wall up.
Yes. It's like really weird. I'm like, okay, there are people that like what you say, Kelly. There are people that want to hear more from you, and you're not doing a lot. So show up. I
love that. No, 100%. You definitely, I mean, even just talking with you in this conversation, this is like the most we've actually gotten to talk, really. And it's like, you have so much to offer people, especially mentality and mindset wise. So no, I think it's great. I think it's so cool that you're doing the podcast, and it's such a testament to your work ethic too, that you're working a full-time job, doing social media and a podcast. Like I mean, all of this social media stuff in itself feels like a full-time job. So it's amazing that you're able to, well, maybe not balance. We're not really that balanced, but at least you're able to do it. And then, like you kind of said, like over time, things will weed out that are serving you long, or that aren't serving you long-term.
Correct. Yeah. It's so funny because I just got like a package with like a whole thing of like clothes from Abercrombie, and I'm like, I love it. Like, I'm so excited, so happy. And then I'm like thinking, I'm like, and I have to create content for it. So I just come take pictures of me. Like,
that's just so funny.
Me having to do it. I don't know.
I know. Like, I feel you.
It's like that. It's so funny though, because like when I am creating the videos, the like fun transition reels and things like I'm having fun doing it. I'm having fun. Like, it's just the thought of doing it. Like, it's just like, sounds so daunting.
I know. But it is good, because that's good that at least it's fun while you're doing it. Because sometimes it's like when you have something in your regular job or your regular career and you're like, it's the last thing you want to start on, and you just can't. And even once you start on it, you're like, oh, this is so miserable. I feel the same way about editing videos. And I'm like, oh, I don't want to edit this right now. But then once I'm in the flow, I'm like, oh, I just keep going. I like literally can't stop. I'll be up so late and I'm like, oh my gosh, I need to go to bed. But it's like the thought of starting, and then at least it's good that once you get started, you like it.
Yeah. No. What are you working on? I guess like 6 months, 4 years from now kind of person. Like, where do you see your business and where do you want it to go? Like, what do you want to be doing with it?
Yeah, I think I'll always like keep weddings to an extent, but I mean, I would love to be like a Vogue wedding photographer. Oh my gosh. But I am not even close to being that good yet. But The Lautners, actually, they've become two of my good friends, Tay and Taylor.
Okay.
I always say girl Tay, guy Tay. They've become two people that have been so like, I don't even understand what I did to deserve their friendship because they're so good to me. They're so like loving towards me. And I joke that they're like mom and dad in LA when I'm out there. I'm like, you guys are like my mom and dad. And their wedding was covered in Vogue. And that's kind of like what inspired my idea to be like, oh my gosh, like that's like such a good goal to strive for, is to be like a Vogue photographer. And I used to think like, oh, I would love to do like National Geographic or Life magazine. And I could still see myself going down that avenue and doing like human interest pieces. And I still think I will. I think that's ultimately my goal, is to go into like documentary filmmaking, even if it's not with my own production company, even if it's like getting a producing job or, something. I think producing would be really cool, but doing something, producing documentaries, like all of that stuff really appeals to me. But at the same time, there's something about the weddings that I just love the glamour of. So I think I'll keep working towards it. And then the other thing as of recently that I'm kind of trying to get into is like live photography and videography. So like concerts and festivals and stuff like that. I feel like I'm kind of at the point where I'm like, I don't know that I want to go and enjoy festivals anymore, but I would love to go and document them and create like videos for brands and stuff like that. I think that would be really cool and a cool way to transition my business. So totally. I'm very, very open-minded to the direction it could go. I'll probably always dabble in weddings to some extent. But I think that right now I'm just like super open-minded to like going down any avenue of video and photo and just kind of seeing like what sticks and also like where I'm passionate, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. I have a friend who's an artist, and she used to do like architectural renderings and like dog paintings, pet more or less. And she will still pick up jobs here and there to do that, but her stuff has evolved into like creating these like resin like coasters and trays and cutting boards and wall art like of resin and like not rhinestones, but like gemstones and things. Like it's really pretty. But it's so interesting to have seen her evolution and just stepping outside of her comfort zone to be like, I want to try something else. And then like with her resin, I think she started with like the cutting boards. And then now, like I said, she does like the wall art. She's done like river tables. So she like pours the resin in like, I want to say like wood. I don't know what it's called, like wood, but it has like slits in it. So the like resin slits, and so it's called river, like whatever. But it's like so cool. Like she just creates. So it's almost like furniture now. Like now she's like pouring the resin in furniture. It's really neat. So I'm like, it's just cool to like the evolution of your business. It's just meaning because you're expanding as a person, you're evolving as a person. That's cool to like be able to tap into that and be able to let go, knowing that you can always go back to it,
Right. Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing with weddings, where it's like, I never thought I would have done weddings, but weddings are more lucrative than any of the other projects I've personally worked on. So I think for a long time, I thought I would like get away from weddings, but now I'm like, I kind of like it. I'm like, oh, I actually kind of love, but I don't really do photography for weddings because I've just done video. I've done second shooting photos, but now I'm like, oh my God, that would be so cool to actually be like a first person photographer for a wedding. I think it'd be really cool. But it's like another leap of faith where I'm like, oh my gosh, that's someone's wedding day that I'm responsible for like photography, which is like a whole other beast from video too. So it's like, yeah, it's exciting to see which direction it's going to go, but it's definitely evolving.
Yeah, that's so cool. Well, and continuing to share your journey and your evolution, and even with like your social media, like, hey guys, I'm thinking of trying this,
Yeah.
Getting them involved and curious in what you're doing. Cause I think that definitely matters. And, you're doing a great job already on social media, of course, but like just,
oh, thanks.
So yeah, it's really cool to watch. So thank you.
Oh my God. Yes. Thank you.
So I feel like I can like talk to you forever now. I'm like,
I know, same.
It's okay. You guys, like we met at our friend Stefan Lovegrove's, his ball, the
Noel ball.
The Noel ball. LA. I went up to y'all. I probably had like 6 vodka drinks at that point.
I was probably like 3 tequila shots in.
Yeah, like I just saw Susie like walking through the crowd and I was like, Susie, I know you.
And I was like, I know you. Yeah. I couldn't believe I was like meeting you. I was like, oh my God, I watched you on TV.
I was on TV. It was so funny. Maybe I didn't have 6 vodka drinks, but it was up there. But
yeah. I was like right there with you. By the end of the night, I was definitely right there with you. But I think I got to the party late. And like as soon as I walked in, they were like, tequila shots. I was like, yes, please, someone help me.
Definitely serving those right. And they were warm tequila shots too.
Yeah.
I was like, yeah.
So true.
So funny. I know the girl, did you ever meet Heather Hopkins? She just out.
Oh wait, I didn't know that, but I think I did meet her. She was there that night, right?
Yeah. So I had her on the podcast a couple of weeks ago, and that's how I met her too, was at the ball. But I was like, yeah, I'm pretty sure that we met standing in line to get this warm tequila shots. Like that's exactly when we met.
That's amazing. What a shared experience.
It was so nice. But yeah, I love chatting with you. Thank you for coming on the show and sharing some inside scoop about Bachelor stuff too. And just who you are. Cause like I said, I love my audience to get to know like the real version of you and of my guests. So, yeah. But where can everyone find you? And if you're, promoting anything right now, like feel free to share that too.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And thank you for having me on. I literally had so much fun. But you can find me on Instagram. It's Susie C Evans. And then my blog, which is like, it's been out for a little while, but it's kind of new. It's susiewhaslike.com. And you can also book me for weddings or engagements through the blog. There's a media page, so you can check it out if you're engaged or know somebody that's engaged.
I love that. I love your blog name, Susie was.
Thanks. Thank you.
Well, yeah. Well, thanks again. Everyone go give her a follow. And if you're looking for a videographer, check her out.
Thank you.
Girl, thank you so much for being here.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Thank you. This was so fun.
If you loved this episode, please download, share, rate, and review. If you are ready to step into that next level version of you and grow your business and bank account, it's time to unleash your goddess magic and chase life with Kelly. You can start this epic expansion journey by diving into the Goddess Magic course bundle found at chaselifetogether.com. Please connect with me on Instagram at Chase Life with Kelly. Join the Chase Life with Kelly Facebook community and subscribe to my YouTube channel. Till next time, create the life you crave, babe, and chase life with Kelly.